Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into MAU, or monthly active users. Whenever online businesses talk about their audience size, they're referring to their MAU, or monthly active users. It's the main metric that's used to size up how big your digital audience is. So when it comes to analytics, a lot of people have trouble creating analysis or charts that include both MAU and Daumau. So Daumau is a ratio that measures the stickiness of your app. How well does your app or mobile game or online business retain users day over day? So the average Daumau ratio is about 10 to 20%. So what that means is, 20% of your audience logs in every single day for a given month. So what I'm going to show you how to do today is combine both of those metrics into a chart so you can see the absolute number or absolute count of monthly active users by day along with the Daumau ratio. So let's look at the analysis behind me and let me step through every part of that chart so you have a complete understanding of what's going on. So for this demo online business, we're just pulling the count of daily active users over a trailing 90-day period. So we're going back over the last 90 days and we're doing a count of daily active users per day. Then for each one of those dates, we're doing a count of total unique users over the last 30 days to do that count of MAU. So we have the orange trend line, which is the Daumau ratio. So DAU for that day divided by the total count of unique users over the last 30 days. And then we have the absolute number or count of MAU by day in the blue area chart. So this is pretty cool because this chart allows you to look at two important metrics at the same time. You can look at the blue area chart, which is a count of monthly active users per day, and that will give you an idea of, hey, is the absolute number of monthly active users growing per day for this online business? And then we have the orange trend line, which represents the Daumau ratio, or is our retention improving over time by these very same days? So obviously you want both of these metrics going up at the same time. That would represent a very healthy online business or mobile game. So let's head over to MySQL and I'll show you how to combine these two metrics in one simple query. Okay, cool. So we're just going to start with a logins table. So customer ID and then distinct days that they logged in on for this example online business. Okay, great. So here are our customers and their login dates. Now, the first part of this is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to say, look, we just want a count of daily active users per day over the last 90 days. Okay, so let's do that. So in the where clause, let's do where the login date has to be greater than or equal to the current date. But we're going to do a date add interval minus 90 days, right? So what this is doing is it's taking the current date, which is January 25th, 2025, and then it's adding a negative 90 days to that. So going back 90 days, and it's saying we want the login date to be greater than or equal to 90 days ago. So this is going to bring back the last 90 days of data. Okay, fantastic. And then all we want to do is do a count of customer IDs by login date. That's simply going to give us DAU or DAU. We can call this DAU. And we want to group by the login date. Now, having run this, this is what the output shows. So we have each of these dates, right, for the last 90 days, and then a count of customer IDs or users that logged into this online business per day over the last 90 days. This is just DAU, daily active users, a count of customers by day for this online business for the last 90 days. All right, so let's take the work that we've done here and wrap it in a subselect. We'll call this DAU. And let's bring up our fields. So MySQL needs to know, where is this data coming from? And we're going to say it's coming from this subselect right here. And this subselect right here is called DAU, right? So we want to bring across the DAU. So the login date field from this DAU subselect. And then we want to bring in the DAU field from the DAU subselect. A little redundant, but that's okay. Okay, so this is going to be the most interesting part of this tutorial. So what we have right now is per date, we have a count of customers that have logged in for that specific date representing DAU. But now for each one of these dates, we want to bring in a count of unique customer IDs that have logged in both on that date and the last 30 days so that we can get MAU or monthly active users. So there are a couple of different ways to calculate monthly active users. You can just look at a given month like January 2025 and do a count of customer IDs that logged in anytime during that month, or you can do a trailing 30-day look back. So in this tutorial, we're going to be defining MAU as a trailing 30-day look back. So I'm just going to show you these records one more time so that we can get a better understanding of what we're going to do next. Okay, great. So again, for each one of these login dates, we have a count of customers that logged in on this specific date. Now, what we're about to do is we're going to say, okay, for each one of these login dates or for each one of these specific dates, let's get a unique count of customer IDs that have either logged in on this date right here, November 7, 2024, or any date over the prior 30 days. And that's going to give us a count of monthly active users per login date value. So ideally what we want is a result set with 3 columns. We want the date, the login date, the count of users that logged in on this specific date, November 4, 2024, and then the count of users that logged in either on this specific date or any time over the trailing 30 days, and have that represent our monthly active users or monthly active users count. Okay, cool. So how are we going to do that? We're going to put that logic, that trailing 30-day logic, into the join we're about to write. So we will say this. We're going to join back to the same login table, fact player logins, and we'll call this logins. And we're going to join on the logins.login date has to be less than or equal to this DAO login date, and this logins.login date has to be greater than date add interval, and this is our trailing 30-day look back. Okay, so what are we saying with this, right? This looks a little confusing. So let's dive in really quick to make sure there's full understanding. So what we're doing is we're joining back to this logins table, right? And we're saying the login date from this logins table or table 2 has to be less than or equal to this date right here, November 4th, 2024, right? But the login date also has to be greater than us subtracting 30 days from this value. So what that's going to do potentially is bring across 30 date values from table 2. And when we bring across 30 date values that are less than or equal to this date value but greater than 30 days ago, we're going to be able to do a count of customers that are brought across over those trailing 30 days of data and do a count on them so that we can get our MAU statistic. So what we need to do here is grab logins and say we want the customer ID and we're just going to do a count distinct here. And we're going to call this MAU. Okay, so let's evaluate this one more time. What we're doing is we are going back to the fact player logins table where the login date has to be less than or equal to this login date value here from up here. But at the same time, it has to be greater than 30 days ago from each one of these dates. So what it's going to do is this join is going to bring across this date and 29 other dates before it, and we're going to be doing a count of unique customer IDs from the customer IDs being brought across from table 2. Okay, that seems pretty good. So it's surprisingly a pretty small query, and because of that, pretty effective. So let's run it. Fantastic, everybody. Here's our data, so we can sort it. There we go. Okay, so in our final data set, we have the login date, we have the DAU, so count of unique customer IDs that logged in on this specific date, and then the count of unique customer IDs that logged in on this date and over the last trailing 30 days. Okay, awesome stuff. So let's go ahead and move this over to Excel. All right, so here we are in Excel. We actually have most of what we need. We just need to add one more column, which is the DAU-MAU ratio. So we will do a DAU-MAU, just call it DAU-MAU, and it's just going to be DAU divided by MAU. And what this is basically saying is it's saying, hey, what percentage of people that have logged in over the last month also logged in on this date, so October 26, 2024. If your online business or mobile game has a DAU-MAU ratio of 100%, that means you have perfect retention. That means every single customer is logging in every single day over the past month. Now, a normal DAU-MAU ratio is 10 to 25%, so it's good to just be aware of that range. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn that into a percentage. Fantastic. Let's just call this date. And then we want to be looking at MAU and DAU-MAU next to each other. Let's create a chart. Let me give you a better visual of this. And then let's go to change chart type. We'll go to combo. We want the MAU, so the count of monthly active users by day, to be a blue area chart. And then we want the DAU-MAU ratio to be an orange trend line. Okay. Okay, so this is pretty cool because you have two of the most important metrics right next to each other. So you have MAU, which is a count of distinct customer IDs that have interacted with your online business over a trailing 30-day period. So you can pick any date on this x-axis and realize that MAU, the blue area chart, is just a count of distinct customer IDs that I've logged in on this date and or on some date over the trailing 30-day period. And then we have the Daumau ratio, which is of the people that have logged in on this specific date, January 4, 2025, what is that login count divided by the total number of unique customers that have logged in over the last 30 days? So again, to explain this chart one more time, we pulled data over the last 90 days, as you can see here. And then for each one of these dates, we did a count of customers that have logged in over the last 30 days to get MAU. And then what we did for each one of these customers that logged in on this specific date, what is the ratio between that divided by the total count of customers that have logged in the last 30 days. So analytically and strategically, this is super important, right? Because a big question is, hey, is my digital audience growing as time passes? Is the absolute number of users in my digital audience growing over time? And that's the blue area chart, right? Where we have about an MAU of 8,000 and then it falls to 7,900 and then it starts growing again to 8,100. And then the next business question is, okay, if the absolute count of monthly active users is growing, which is our blue area chart, how's the retention? What's the Daumau ratio? And you can see here that it's growing a little bit, not too much, mostly staying flat. But again, putting these two metrics side by side help you answer two questions. From an absolute standpoint, is my digital audience growing? Is the number, the actual number itself, absolute number growing? And is the Daumau ratio or that retention ratio growing as well? So having them side by side is super useful and really offers a lot of strategic insight into the health of your online business. I hope this tutorial helped. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you very much.